Well, this video is not going to cause any negative comments or controversy, right? Who am I kidding? I'm a grown man reviewing a kids movie. Of course it is. So Super Mario Galaxy is here, and as expected, it's causing quite the controversy online. The fans think it's great and the critics think it's terrible. But what if I told you both can be true? You can have a fun movie that scratches that nostalgic itch and entertains kids, but you can also critique it for its shortcomings. So the big question here is, does it deserve the criticism that it's getting? Well, yes and no. But before we get started, as always, if you're new here, my name is Aaron and I talk all things movies and TV, but really mostly movies, so if you're into that sort of thing, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me and hit that like button while you're at it as well. And of course, if you've already seen the movie, let me know your thoughts on it down below in the comments, and please don't be a jerk about it. But without further ado, let's talk about the Super Mario Galaxy movie. So let me start this by saying it is clear that this movie is targeted towards die-hard fans and kids, and if you're in that category and love this movie, there is nothing wrong with that, and I am happy that you like this movie. Now for me, I'm just a casual Mario fan. I played games like Super Smash Bros. And Mario Kart growing up, but I don't have this deep connection to all of these characters like others who have played all of the games. Now I am someone that really enjoyed that first movie. However, when it comes to this one, I didn't like it at all, but I also don't think it's as bad as all the critics are saying it is. So before I get into some of my criticisms for this movie, let's talk about some of the things that this movie does well. Off the bat, the animation is pristine. It's cleaner, smoother, and more vibrant than the first in every way. And that animation really shines in the action sequences they have in this thing, which are pretty fun to watch. They do some really cool things with the camera as they kind of weave it through all of these action scenes, and that just makes me curious what they could do with a Super Smash Bros. Movie. I thought they did some cool things with Bowser before they decided not to go through with it, and I also really liked learning about Peach's backstory. The new characters they added were a lot of fun, even if it did feel like they just put them in this movie to sell more toys, but Yoshi, Star Fox, and Bowser Jr. were some of the best parts of this movie. I would say Rosalina was great, but she wasn't in this movie all that much. Really, outside of Bowser Jr., they didn't do much with these new characters, which is why it feels like they were kind of just put in this movie to sell more toys. And as you can see, even though I didn't really like this movie, it worked because I bought a Yoshi popcorn bucket. But with all that said, that's really where the good stops for me in this movie, which brings me to my criticisms for this thing. Now, before I get into this, I want to say again that I understand that this is just a kids movie, but that doesn't mean I can't criticize it. I hate the argument of it's just a kids movie because it implies that movies targeted towards kids can be bad and don't have to tell good stories. I'm not expecting a 5-star Oscar-worthy story, but I am expecting a little bit more than what we got here. And I think that is a fair thing to say, considering that the first movie had a pretty solid story. It wasn't anything special, but it was about two brothers who would do anything they possibly could to travel this universe and reunite with each other, and it made you feel a little something by the end of the movie. For me, all this movie really had to do was just have a story that came close to that, and it would have been fine, but it didn't. And again, I get that this is a kids movie, but our kids deserve good stories too. K-Pop Demon Hunters, the Spider-Verse movies, and Hoppers, which is still in theaters right now, are all targeted towards kids, and they have good stories. Now, some might think it's unfair to compare it to those types of movies, so I'll compare it to the Sonic movies, which I thoroughly enjoy. Those movies have plenty of references, fan service, and is targeted towards kids, but they also still manage to tell a solid story. Look, I don't expect much from a Mario movie, but I do think it's fair to expect a story that's at least on par with what we got in the first one. And that's why I think a lot of the criticisms for this movie are warranted. This is 90 minutes of Easter eggs and references, and it feels like they used that to cover up the fact that they had no real interest in telling a story. And I've heard this movie be described as dangling keys, and I kind of agree with that. It feels like this movie is dangling keys in your face of references and Easter eggs to not only keep you distracted from the lack of story, but to also try to keep your attention. It feels like every time you start to realize, hey, this might not be so good of a movie, this thing says, hey, you remember this character? Look over here. Don't worry about the lack of story over there. It just tries to overload your senses with vibrant colors and a fast pace to keep your eyes on the screen. So I will say, if you have a short attention span, then this movie is probably perfect for you. Now, I know it just sounds like I'm taking a giant dump all over this movie, but let me say that this is far from the worst movie that I've ever seen, and I would be lying to you if I said I didn't have fun with some parts of this movie, and that's why I also think that some of the criticisms for this movie are a little bit of an overreaction. But if there's one thing you should know about me and my taste for movies, it's that I'm really passionate about our kids getting good stories in their movies, and I will always stand on that. I just think it's so important because our kids can learn a lot from movies. Now, I'm not saying that movies like this shouldn't exist, because obviously there's a market for them, and this thing is probably going to make tons of money. I just hope that studios don't make a habit out of making these types of movies. I'm someone who grew up with movies like Toy Story, Ratatouille, Treasure Planet, Atlantis, The Lost Empire, Brother Bear, Tarzan, heck, even Shrek. And all of these movies are targeted towards kids and had their fair share of fun, but there is also something that you could take away from it, even as a kid. The last thing I'll say is that I think we just need to give our kids a little bit more credit on what they can comprehend and understand, because I think it may surprise us all. Now, with that said, I know I'm still probably going to get comments on this video along the lines of grown-up man reviewing a kid's movie, or learn to have fun, or simply that I am just a hater, because those are the type of comments that I get on my shorter reviews that I post on TikTok and Instagram, and is why I hate reviewing kids movies that I don't like. But as I said before, I am always going to stand on the fact that I think our kids deserve good stories in their movies, and I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that the people watching this on YouTube, even if they disagree with me, will understand where I'm coming from. Again, for you diehard fans out there who loved this movie, I am happy for you, and there is nothing wrong with that. My criticisms on this movie are not an attack on you or the kids who walked out of this movie having a blast, because as much as I do dislike this movie, it did bring a lot of people to the theater, which is another thing that I am passionate about. These are just my thoughts and opinions on this movie, and I would love to know yours. Just don't be a jerk in the comments, because if you haven't been able to tell yet, I'm really tired of those people. But anyways, on my personal tier list, this will go in the average for me. There is definitely fun to be had with this movie. The animation is great and the new characters are fun, but the disregard for the story and the constant attempt to keep your attention with references and vibrant colors just didn't work for me. Those are my thoughts on the Super Mario Galaxy movie. Be sure to let me know what you thought of the movie down in the comments, and be nice. But with that said, be sure to like, subscribe, comment. God bless, and I'll see you guys later. Peace. Hey, thanks for watching to the end of the video. Be sure to subscribe, and here's some more cool videos you may like. All right, that's all I got. Peace.